Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and I hope everybody's having a good night. My guest tonight is a paranormal investigator that really likes to show us the equipment, so that's going to be good. I like to see how the equipment works and stuff like that. I found her when she was a listener to one of the shows, the one that we had with Kelly Joe the other day. So I thought it'd be nice to have somebody on that you guys have not heard of. So my guest tonight is Tiffany Linkous of Dream Rather Than Worry Paranormal out of Morristown, Tennessee. So I'm looking forward to talking to Tiffany. Hi, Tiffany. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Fine. Thank goodness we didn't have any problems.
Right.
So, did you guys get all that rain that you were supposed to get today?
We got a lot of rain 2 days ago, and then it tapered off.
Oh, good. Yeah, so did we, and then it was gone yesterday. So we were able to, we went to Mardi Gras yesterday here in Milton. They had a big parade.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of nice to be outside for a little while and not get wet.
Right.
So how did you get involved in the paranormal?
I got in as a fan of the paranormal when I was young. I started out watching Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters like most normal people did. And then I experienced a death in the family with my son, and that really pushed me into it more because I was actually hearing him cry here at the house. And so I called a team out to come and check out my house that was local, and they were able to capture his voice crying as well. So they backed me up. And while they were here, I kind of, helped out some. And the founder of that team asked me to help them some. So I was able to get my feet wet, as they say, and learn how to do everything.
Oh, I'm so sorry that you got involved in the paranormal through a loss, especially one that's not the way we always want us to go first, not our children.
Right.
And I'd like to say hi to Susan and Mike and Tom, Cassie, and Mom. Hi. We're all here tonight. So if anybody comes up with any questions that they have, please put them in the chat, and I will make sure that Tiffany answers your questions. So you had told me, and then you decided to start your own team. You told
That's
me
correct.
that because you got tired of the crap with the other team.
Right. I got tired of equipment getting broken and other things happening that shouldn't be, and clients coming to me with all the bad news. You never want a client upset. You want them to be happy, pleased.
So we have one of our listeners, Gary. He really enjoys hearing about the equipment. Hey, Andrew, it's great to see you. It's been a long time.
I've got some new equipment that I purchased recently within the last year through a company called Ghost Gear. And I know that a couple other people on Ghost Adventures has actually used them. So I know if they use them and they back them up, of course I'm going to back them up, especially if they go off when I'm on a case. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can get them to go off even when you're at home, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, I instruct most people to not investigate their own homes. I don't know how you feel about that, but I instruct people that.
Right. Well, I normally use my home as like if I'm going to try out a new piece of equipment, I'll use a test for about a minute just to see if I can get it to actually go off. And if it don't, that's fine. It's just more or less a test. And then I use it like on cases.
Okay. Well, show us what you want to show us.
Okay. Everybody is familiar with cat balls, that you use like for a cat toy.
Mm-hmm.
These can also be used. I use it on top of either my REM pod, which I will show you what that is. REM pods can pick up EMF. And if something gets really close to it, like where my hand is, it'll light up all the way around. on any angle. And I'll usually set this on top in the event that it's not going off, or if I'm in a room across the hall, I can actually see it go off. Whereas it'll also it will only move like with motion. So something's got to physically bump it, and it'll go off here in just a second. See it or not? Hold it up. See, it finally did go off. Now see, it has to actually move before it'll go off again. So it's just kind of double confirms that something is in there.
Mm-hmm.
You might not be able to see it or hear it, but something is making it go off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just, that's me moving it. But that's how I usually use that piece of equipment. Or I've got a stuffed teddy bear that I'll use around the REM pod. Like if someone says there's a child present in a room, or they're sensing that it might be a kid, I'll set this bear up on one end with the REM pod, and on the other end I'll set just a regular ball and see if something will interact with the ball, like maybe roll it to the bear.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it does roll, then I'll roll it back the other way just to see if something will interact and play. That's something that my daughter usually does too, because she can actually interact with kids. Like if they're in the home and they don't want to be around what I'm doing, she'll kind of sit with them and entertain them.
And approximately, I know how much cat balls are. You can get those at the Dollar Tree for $1.50. Unless you get them from Ghost Stop or any of the ghost gear places, it can be more. And the REM pod, we were just talking about a REM pod before the show, Carl and I, because our friend Gary, who really likes the equipment, just got one. What is your favorite part of the REM pod? Favorite thing about the REM pod?
Well, I like how it detects EMF. Like you can set it just for EMF, and it'll play like a little tune when it's running a check. It's almost like a temperature check. It kind of backs you up that the room may have a change. And then, of course, if something gets near it, it'll light up in a different color, so you'll know exactly what side they're standing on. It kind of pinpoints it a little better.
Is that one that does indicates temperature?
It's got a
indicates
EMF reader,
change.
but you can take a temperature gauge to it and check the temperature while it's running and see if it's changed, which is what I use. I'll use let me see if I can find it. Here. This tests the wall temperatures. It shoots like a laser on any wall. It'd be kind of hard to see it here in this room because I tried to pick the brightest room to be able to be seen on film. But it'll show an input. Like right now it's showing 60.6 on this wall.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're wanting to know if the temperature's changed, you can just move it to a different angle. It's like right there, I got 65. I'm not sure.
We use that as a cat toy too.
Right.
Our cats love to chase lasers. So, and our kids have used it when they were working jobs like at Subway when the refrigerator was going out. It was helpful.
Right. Yeah. These work like construction workers use them a lot if they're wanting to know like the temperature of a refrigerator or something. Mm-hmm.
I could say the construction workers here probably use them to get out of work.
Yeah.
It's too cold. Yeah, I know it's Florida, but it's too cold. We can't work.
Right.
So, those are two very interesting pieces of equipment, especially considering that they can work together. What other pieces of equipment do you have?
Okay, I've got the Ovulus 5. Mm-hmm. And it's got a memory bank in it of words, and it will actually it'll ramble, it'll spit out words, but sometimes if you're on a case and say you're learning about some kind of history event going on, it can pick up on that and it'll actually say, like I've had it say president when I was learning about Abraham Lincoln on a site.
Hmm.
And I thought that was pretty neat because it picked that word up, and it hasn't said that any other spot that I've been at, except for if I mention it. It's also got like a readout on it where you can actually go back in the memory and research all the words that it said and like print them out for your client and say, okay, this is what it said during the whole time I was running it. And I might run it for 30 minutes in a room, or I might take it to a different room and just let it run on its own. Or I might sit in and see if I can actually get it to communicate.
Does that have a microphone in it?
No, we don't.
Because I know a lot of the equipment, like the, it was an Ovilus that Bart had, and it had a microphone in it when he took it apart. And I don't know which Ovilus it was. It was one of the earlier ones.
Potential fade.
Yeah, see, I don't know if you can hear it or not, but it's rambling now. It'll just spit off words. I can read it to you if you want me to.
Oh, I can see it.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it'll continue to go all through the whole session that you have it running. And a lot of people want to sit down like with dowsing rods and see if they can get it to communicate. Which I only use these when I'm actually on a case. And these are used specifically if I can't get anything else to work. This is supposed to be the very first piece of equipment that Ed and Lorraine used to see if they could get communication. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they were the first to actually get something going with them other than checking for water lines like they did back in the 1800s and beyond.
So, wow.
So that's kind of what those are. I've got it set up under man voice. Sometimes I put it in lady voice just to, kind of deter, I guess.
Yeah, like you're talking to somebody new.
Right.
Instead of the same old person.
Right. Just to kind of make it different every now and then.
So it doesn't choose the voice. You do. So you could be speaking to man, a woman, child, old, young. It's not the sound, the voice that comes through isn't necessarily what the gender is of the person you're talking to.
Exactly. Right. It's not like an open speaker box type spirit box where you'd use like the SB7 and then just have it tuned into a speaker. It's not like that. Yeah. That's like that's the new wave versus this. I've had this piece of equipment for almost 7 years. So it was my very first thing that I ever acquired.
Yeah. Cassie asks, do you mostly do private residences?
Mostly private residents or in businesses that contact us. And we keep everything pretty much confidential unless they're willing to share on the page.
Sometimes not sharing is better than sharing.
Right.
Sometimes people get dramatic. We'll go with that. Sometimes they get dramatic. So, which piece of equipment is your go-to piece of equipment?
Well, I normally always carry 2 pieces of equipment with me. This is on a preliminary walkthrough. I'll have a Sony stationary recorder. Sometimes I'll bring 2 or 3 and I'll put them around the room. And while I'm talking to the clients, I'll tell them that, you're going to be recorded if that's okay. This is just for me to listen to when I go home. And this right here, this is a K2. This is, a preliminary EMF reader. Turn it on. It's going to light up. Now, of course, if anything goes off, that means you're getting EMF. And that's electromagnetic field. You're picking up some kind of high EMF reading that you shouldn't be reading for whatever reason. It may be like if you stand next to a refrigerator, it's going to show all the way up to the red. That means you've got high EMF. It's plugged in. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing. But you could also have it checked out if you feel funny when you're around it. Like if you start feeling like a bad headache, or you start seeing things that shouldn't be there. Like some people call it stars. They see stars, not like a spirit, but just, random lights. And, and that can be an indicator that there's a problem with your equipment in your kitchen. But now if this goes off in a house where there's nothing plugged up, say it's totally empty, and you can get it to communicate with you, like say, for example, okay, if someone's in here, can you light it up to yellow or orange? And it goes, boom, yellow, orange. Can you do that again? Boom. That's something else. That's something that we can't see, unless it wants to show itself.
Well, you got to be careful too, though, because it'll give you a false positive on things like bed springs, the really old beds that, there's springs in them because of the steel that's used to make them. And some granite and marble type tombstones will do it too.
Oh, okay.
So
you just have to randomly check. I always just randomly check stuff. Like if someone says there's something uneasy in a room, I go in there full force and do my walkthrough, whatever area they need me to check out. And then I'll go home with my recorder and run it through, a program to where I can maybe hear stuff that I didn't pick up while I was there live. And I try to save any kind of clip that I capture.
And Judy, tell Reva I said happy birthday. Judy's my sister. Reva's my niece. So, and she came into the chat. So I like to recognize everybody that they come in. And I'm going to again invite anybody to ask questions if they'd like to. So when you first got equipment, what was the first thing you bought?
The Ovilus. It was around I think $400. So I had to save up for a long time. It was something that I had seen on Ghost Adventures that they always seem to always carry around. And I thought, that might be something good to have on hand. Just as that it would actually speak. I didn't know exactly how it worked until I got it. And the booklet really didn't say a whole lot about it other than turn it on and hit buttons and see what it does, By watching YouTube tutorials, I learned quite a bit. And I'm sure that's where everybody goes now.
Yeah, they should. We have a question here from Susan. Mm-hmm. She asks, what program do you run your audio through? Do you use Audacity or some other program?
Yeah, I use Audacity, the 3.1.
April asks, she's not asking it, she's being rhetorical. She goes, why is every show I catch, I'm in the ER? April, I'm praying for you. I love you. I hope it's not one of the kids, but you have 7 kids. That could be the reason that you're always in the ER.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm so sorry. So, and yeah, Andrew said it. He said, stop going to the ER. So, and thank you, Judy, for sharing. And thank you, Andrew, for sharing. I appreciate that. So your first piece was the Ovilus.
Right.
Have you looked at getting any of the newer Oviluses?
I've looked at them, but the newest one is pretty much the same unless it just has a built-in mic. That's the only thing that it may have different. I hadn't really ventured on the site to watch the videos on it yet. But this screen looks the same. So I'm not sure if it would benefit me or not. What I want to get is a regular ghost spirit, like an external speaker. That's what I'm wanting to upgrade to for my SB7.
So do you, how much equipment do you have?
I have enough to do probably a 2 to 3 hour session. If I needed to do one, like full stream, but I try to bring only a preliminary bag with me on a walkthrough, just so it's not so bulky. Like this piece of equipment right here, this is one of my new ones. It's called an Epoch box. And the way it works is like, say you ask a question and you sit and wait, and it'll either blink yes or no.
So it's a digital dowsing rods.
Yeah, kind of. But the guy that makes this system right here, he can create one like this, or he can create one where you just sit it stationary. This one does like a reading, like say if something walks through 50 feet, I think it is. It'll start up here in just a minute. That's its warm-up tone. You can actually sit this one down and it'll read like a hallway. And if something walks within 50 feet, it'll set off a little song. Which it may take it a minute to play here, but it'll play a little. You hear it? That lets you know that something's in the hallway within 50 feet. Like say you're in the living room and it's in the hallway, you hear the tune go off, you know something's down there. Which in my case it would be a dog, because I have a dog. So, and he's a real good tester. He likes to go over there. I'm like, you're down the hall.
Well, you have a ton of dogs, don't you?
Boston's,
And you're a breeder. So if you guys are into Boston Terriers and you're in the area, make sure you check her out. She's got lots of little puppies out there. So, April, I hope that you don't have a kidney stone. And Andrew, I am so grateful you don't. So we've talked about dowsing rods and your favorite. If I was to start my own team, we already know I have one, but if I was to start my own team, what would you suggest the 3 pieces of equipment I should buy?
Well, this one right here is really good. I hadn't showed it yet. I don't know if you've ever heard of a standard just running EMF yourself. This is a standard EMF box. I purchased it about 3 years ago on Amazon. And what you do is, like, say you're on a case and there's, that the activity's in a room, but they say sometimes it's down the hallway too. And you don't want to run back and forth. So you just want it to kind of come where you're at. If that makes sense. You can run this piece for 15 minutes before you start a case. And that gives you enough time to interview the client in the living room. And then start your walkthrough.
So is that an EM pump?
Yeah, it's a mini one. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And all it does, I'll show you. It lights up blue. And it has a little hum to it. It's really not going to bother anything. You just don't want to run any other equipment while it's going for that 15 minutes because it can mess it up. So, I mean, that's just kind of demoing what it does. And I always bring this with me. And I usually I would also bring a K2 and a recorder. Because you can basically use your senses if you don't really have anything else. You can go in there and give your input of what you feel.
And Tom McNicholas asks, what do you use to capture the evidence?
What do we use to capture?
Yeah.
We use a GoPro. Is what we use, is a straight GoPro, or I have a 4-camera system.
So a DVR system?
Yes, ma'am.
And April asks, what about cameras? So there you go. We got both of those questions asked.
I mean, you can also use your cell phone too. If you don't have something high tech, don't panic, because your phone will record a video. And you can always plug it into your computer at home and run it, and save it, just as you could anything else.
Yeah, I like using my computer with the mouse fart mic to try to capture EVPs.
Right.
Because I've had better luck with my computer than anything else.
Well, that's
And I
good.
think a lot of it is, what are you comfortable with? So
Yeah. Yeah, you
when
don't
you
have to go. You don't have to go all extreme out. You can even go to Amazon, like with just a basic K2 beater. I think they're about $15 to $18. Start out small, with a recorder. They've even got some now that are digital where you don't have to put batteries in it, and that saves a lot of money. You just got to make sure you got a USB or one of them 8-hour plug up chargers, and you can go. That gives you more.
I have so many of the little chargers, because I used to do tours at the Sally house, and everybody would come in and go, my phone was fine in the car and now it's not. So I would let them use them to charge up their phones or equipment, whatever it is that they needed it for, so that they could capture whatever it is they wanted to capture. And Cassie asks, can you tell us any evidence you've captured that just blew you away?
Okay. Well, on one case, I can say that I saw a slave hand come through a bookcase that was captured on film, but was not seen live, if that makes sense. Like, we didn't witness it live, but when we went back to review footage, it was there. And we were actually at a plantation where there was a slave's quarter, and we were in the room where it was considered a school, where the slave wives would teach class, and that's where we were. That's the room we were in when that happened. So we thought that was pretty neat.
Where are some of the places that you've investigated?
Well, I've investigated all the way in Pennsylvania. I went and helped a lady up there, and then as far as like local here, I've investigated pretty much in just about 15 counties around where I live, either in homes or businesses.
My husband asked if you'd investigated in Gettysburg.
No, I have not.
No.
Not yet.
I suggest if you get a chance to go. But don't try to take any equipment out on the battlefield. It doesn't work well. It's illegal. So just a heads up.
Okay.
So, and Cassie says it's awesome that you got a hand on camera. So, do you have, I know that you've gone on some tours and stuff. Of some of the tours, can you recommend any?
Well, the one that I want to go on next would be Brushy Mountains, because they just opened it up a few years ago for the public. But the problem is they won't let investigators bring equipment in. They'll let them investigate all night, but you have to do it with them. They have a team there, so
that's bullshit. Sorry.
I'm all about, if I want to go, and I'm going to pay like high dollar to do this for a whole weekend, I want to be able to use my own stuff. I don't know if it's a privacy matter that they don't want anybody to.
It's a control thing. There's other places that do the same thing, that basically any evidence that's found is theirs. They are not giving it. They're not going to let you have it. They don't care. But if you pay to book the place, you should be able to use your own equipment and not have to give it back to them. Right. You shouldn't have to turn the evidence over to them. There was a lot of people that would come to the Sally house when we were there during the day, and they'd go, "Are we allowed to take pictures?" I'm like, "Yep, take all the pictures you want." Can we video? What can we do? I said, "You can do anything you want as long as you don't go in the hole. You're fine."
Right.
And it's not the same way now. Now it's not that way. We didn't care what people did. They paid their money to be there. It belonged to them. And that was just me. But yeah, if you're paying your money to go into someplace, they shouldn't have control over that. Now, there are some places I know there is a few places that won't let you tell people where you're investigating. They will, in their public places, but they don't want people to think that they're haunted. So they'll take your money for you to investigate, but you can never say where you got where it came from, at least not publicly. You can whisper it, sign language it, but you can't say it. So Don't be surprised if you hear about that. But is that so that's if you go on a tour that you're not allowed to. What if you're the one that's investigating it?
Well, when we had called up there, they had told us that if we were going to investigate, we'd have to wait until their team was up there. And then we'd have to be took through with their team and their stuff. But as far as a day tour, anybody can go to that. I think it's like $25, and you just go in and they'll talk to you about the place.
Well,
but they really don't want equipment brought in at all. As far as like you can't even take pictures or anything.
And don't they have a distillery in there as well?
I believe so. I've not actually been, but I believe they do.
When they first opened up, we happened to be driving from Alton, Illinois to down here in Florida to look at houses. So we stopped at a rest area, and there was a sign for Brushy Mountain. And that was the first time we'd seen it, because we drive through, Tennessee all the time, going here or there. So, this was the first time we'd seen a sign for it. There was nothing on there that said anything like you can bring your own equipment. So they may have changed. I mean, of course, it depends on who signed what with whom. And I don't think legally they have anything to stand on, other than if it's a historic location, sometimes they can use the historic part to keep you from taking pictures, like the Biltmore. You cannot take pictures in the Biltmore. They'll say, oh, it'll ruin our furniture and our walls, the flash, which is not true. But they've had that rule. They had that rule back in 1982 when I was there.
People do take pictures.
Oh, yeah.
I see them go live every now and then. You just like look at them and go on.
Oh, yeah. There's, I have a video camera that's this size of this pen. They can't tell. If it just sits in my pocket, how are they going to know that I'm probably recording? They don't know. But again, that is one of my pet peeves, is paranormal teams that get a hold of a location and they control it.
Right.
And in Kansas City, there's a few. In southern Missouri, there's another one. So I've come across them, and it puts a bad taste in my mouth. So
it makes you wonder what else they're hiding in there, Yeah,
I mean, is it truly haunted, or is it made up, or is this just, again, it's control? I mean, like there's a place in New Orleans that you can go, but somebody's watching you on camera the entire time. So I've heard, PTF's never done that to me, Susan. They've always let me go wherever I wanted with my own equipment and never stopped me. But again, Susan, you also know I can't be stopped. Hey, Don, it's been a long time. Oh, and hey, Suze. So I wouldn't waste my money if I'm not allowed to investigate with my own equipment. That's
right. That's kind of what's kept me from going.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Because I was even checking into a couple that, like the one up in West Virginia. Mm-hmm. I tried there to see if I could get in, because I had a friend who wanted me to see if we could get a couple of tickets for her sister. Mm-hmm. And they go, well, you got to book for 10 and you got to pay a $2,500 deposit.
That's for Trans-Allegheny?
Yes, just to go there, because they want you to book it for at least a 24-hour stay. And I said, well, what if I didn't tell you that I was a paranormal investigator, that I just wanted to take a tour? And they go, well, you could take a day tour with the lights on, And I said, oh, okay.
Yeah, we stopped by there when we were coming back from Gettysburg. My mom lived in Eastern Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And we stopped by there, and we just walked in the front door. First off, we drove up to it, and of course, amazed at how big it is, how beautiful the buildings are, right, and how big all this stuff is in this little teeny tiny town. And, we didn't know that we were going to be driving by it. So we didn't have enough time to actually stay. and check it out. But we came in, looked at it, looked at the price of the tours, and the tours weren't bad for the
Right.
day tours. Not bad at all. It's just the timing. All the tours are over at 4:00. We just
Right.
didn't have time to take one. And kind of like distilleries, same thing. Most of the tours are done at 4:00. you gotta come early. So but yeah, that's one of the places that we'd like to go back to is Trans-Allegheny, but not for $2,500.
No, that's just if you book for, to investigate. They were wanting to do that for their birthday, she was wanting to bring her sister and come with me. And I said, well, I've got to book it for 10 people. And she's like, well, how much is the deposit? And I said, $2,500. She goes, for what? And I said, well, in case something gets damaged.
Yeah.
I said, they'll give it back to you when we're done. They just, it's like a holding fee.
They give it back to you. So is it free to investigate? You just have to put down a $2,500 deposit, or is it?
No, it's $2,500 deposit plus $150 per guest. So.
Oh. Yeah, that sounds like a small trailer payment.
Right.
I can buy a camper and use it for 3 or 4 months on that price.
Mm-hmm.
So you took a tour of Hershey. So did I. I took a tour way back in 1979. It's when I went to Hershey. Left with a 4-pound bag of Reese's Pieces.
That's cool.
Ate it all on the way home in the car.
Huh.
Yeah, we didn't live that far. It was about 2.5 hours from State College to Maryland, where I lived. So, as you can tell, I've lived everywhere, it seems like, but I haven't. So, but yeah, Hershey's is one of my favorite things. So, Andrew, you'll have to come see us down here in Florida. I don't know if you knew, but we moved. We're no longer in the Midwest. We're Pensacola area now, so check it out. Andrew drives trucks for a living. He's into the paranormal, and it's just so nice to have him in here tonight because I haven't seen him in one of my chats in a long time. So thank you for coming on tonight and bringing in some of my friends that I haven't seen. So
yeah, it's neat.
Let's see. I can take Tiffany on tours and will hardly cost any money. Tom is good about getting you tours. If you ever get up in the Chicago area, he is a good one to get in touch with. He knows what's the name of that? Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Knows it well. He used to help with tours at Joliet. Mm-hmm. And so he's such a good guy. He'd just make you smile the whole time. So cool. He's really good for my ego anyway.
Right.
So he's the kind of guy you want around. So State College he has been all the way down to Duncannon. That's a ways. So, and Susan's hoping to go to Gettysburg in August. So are we. We're hoping
that'd
to go
be neat.
They've got the Battlefield Bash in I guess that's in July. So we're hoping to go to Gettysburg in July ourselves. So have you done any paranormal conferences yet?
Not yet. No. I've actually went to a Paracon meeting. We had one, it was an outdoor event. They called it the Bigfoot Festival. I had won tickets to it. It was at Cherokee Park here in our town.
Okay.
See, where COVID had hit, they used to have it in Sevierville, and Morristown decided to let them use their park a few years ago. And I enter contests as a hobby, so that's kind of how I am able to help people out of state, is if I win a trip that I can use one of my days that I'm not doing anything, but just chilling at a motel and help someone in a different state. And that's usually that's how I had actually got to go to the Bigfoot Festival. I'd entered a local contest and they picked me from the newspaper.
Well, I'll tell you, Sevierville, Gatlinburg, we could do without the Dollywood portion of the trip, but but the rest of it, we really enjoy it. We always have a really good time in Gatlinburg, and there's a really incriminating video of me in Gettysburg or in Gatlinburg on the stair on the lift. In fact, Tom may remember that one. So, but yeah, we really enjoy going to the distilleries and stuff. I'm not allowed to drink anymore, but I still like going. I think the history of moonshine and bourbon is all really interesting. And I always call it my Spirit and Spirits tour because most of the places that we go either have spirits or have spirits, this kind or this kind.
Right.
So we have a lot of fun on those. And I tease people all the time that, after we go to the distillery, we end up at a liquor store. And I tease everybody that Ron becomes everybody's spirit guide at the liquor store.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's always fun to learn something new. And so many distilleries are haunted. And it's because of the history, of course.
Right.
And do you enjoy researching the history of locations?
I do. That's actually one thing that I always do is try to get as much historical information as I can with clients, especially on their properties, because a lot of them don't know that you can go to the tax assessor's office here and like if they want to know how many births or deaths or anything that's occurred on their land, they can find out that information for free. And that sort of gives you names to go on. Like if you're wanting to go in and you can say, hey, is so-and-so here? And maybe you'll get a response.
Do you look at the deeds and all that as well?
I do. As long as the homeowner's willing to share it.
Well, technically they don't have to.
Right. Well, I mean, they don't have to, but a lot of times they'll want to go get the info themselves just to see what's on it because they don't realize that it's free information.
Yeah.
Because you can go in and act like you're going to buy the property and they can give it to you.
You don't even have to do that. You can just say, hey, I'm researching the area. I mean, because I've researched a lot of property and every state is a little different, but not so much. There's little nuances to things. Iowa's weird. Researching things in Iowa is weird. But other than that, I haven't had any issues. I haven't tried to research anything here yet in Florida. Okay. But I just know, what's the strangest thing you found out about a location during doing research?
Well, it's one of my friends' house. They had a cemetery behind it, and there's a lot of unmarked graves. Anyway, on the one grave that did have writing on it, it was a doctor's grave, and his wife, of course, is buried beside him. His mistress is behind him. And it says, my mistress, and it points the arrow to his headstone. So that, to me, that was pretty weird that he would want to be buried with his, with the wife and the mistress.
Well, he was burning the candle at both ends.
Right.
So, funny story. My mom, she was married to a man who, divorced her. But before that, he was married to this woman, and they had been divorced 27 years before he married my mother. Okay. 27 years. That's an entire lifetime. And they blamed my mom for breaking up their marriage, which is funny because I was only 19 at the time, so you look at it from that standpoint there. And I'm the oldest. So my mom was with my dad at that point, but blamed my mom for breaking up their marriage. And then my mom ends up becoming best friends with her husband's wife, ex-wife. So Ansel died, and
wow,
he wanted my mom buried on one side and his ex-wife buried on the other. Well, my mom was cremated, so she's not going to be, of course, buried next to Ansel. Right. But his ex-wife is buried next to him, and his son is buried on the other side where my mom was supposed to be buried. My mom's like, nope. She goes, I don't want to be buried. I was like, okay. So, but I just thought it was funny the whole time that they were best friends. And when I gave the eulogy at Ansel's funeral, which it's strange, his funeral, the anniversary of his death is Groundhog Day. And I gave the eulogy, and it was one of those things where they didn't know who I was. You know, none of these people had ever met me. They didn't know, but they knew who I was when they saw me, you know, because I looked like my mom. But it was one of those things that all of a sudden, this woman was no longer my mom's friend. Just suddenly went right as he died. So those damn people.
All right.
Well, it's those Southern people, you know, somebody who's buried in turkey pen, that tells you something about where they lived, you know, in the holler, you know, had to take them up in the holler to bury him. It just makes you laugh when, you know, because I mean, I haven't lived in the South in a long time. And so I just had gotten unused to that. You know, living in Kansas City is a whole lot different than living in Eastern Kentucky. So,
yeah.
Or even living down here. It's a lot different than here too. So, but yeah, so I could see him pointing out his mistress and his wife, I guess, so people didn't get mixed up.
Probably.
So maybe
I just thought it was wild how they had an arrow that was pointing, you know, you see where the wife is, and then right behind you see the arrow going right to him again, mistress. I was like, that's, and she died like 3 days after he did. His wife died 20 years before he did. So,
well, then I guess that's okay. Tom, you said that Mike Ricksecker's going to this event in Paragould. So that'd be interesting to know, because we might be coming up. We don't know yet. So depends on if we go to Gettysburg. So there's a paranormal conference in Paragould, Arkansas, that is put on by Scared City Productions, and it's Santiago Cirillo is one of the hosts of it. So, Mansfield. Okay. And then in May, Mansfield Reformatory in Ohio, they have a big event there every May.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's the least expensive that you're going to get a tour of the place. It's like it's $1,000 to rent it to do an investigation, but during that time you can get I think it was like $10 the last time I heard, that you could get a tour of the place, and the event itself is free. It's just they charge you for the tour inside.
Right.
So, which is we've been asked to go before. We've wanted to go. It's just so far away, and now I don't know. It's even further. So
you'd have to fly there.
No. We're drivers. Well, he's a driver. I'm a rider. It all works out.
Okay.
You're a pilot, but you're afraid to fly. So, yeah, it's a self-walking tour, Tom said. So, but what is your pre-investigation meal like? What do you know, we always would go have tacos or something. When we were in Atchison, we'd always end up having Taco John's. When you're getting ready to go on an investigation, you're going to be gone for a while. Where do you eat out at?
It can be anywhere as far as Jersey Mike's all the way to Wendy's. I mean, it just kind of depends on where we're at. Yeah. And, you know, budgeting wise.
Yeah.
Of course. But sometimes just for fun, I like to get a Mountain Dew freeze, like in the summer. That usually gets me in the run for a ghost hut.
Well, there's always something. I mean, let's be honest. We all know there's always something.
And I'm not a coffee drinker. Most of my friends are, but I'm not.
I'm a tea drinker. or water.
Yeah.
And I can't even say I'm a Southern tea drinker because my tea is subtly sweet. It's not rot your teeth out of your head sweet.
Right. Well, I usually have a bottle of water. I mean, I always keep water with us when we're on a case, just because you never know that what the elements are going to be. If you're going to be inside, outside, or if it's going to be no heat or air. You know, a lot of people like the fans blowing, and you can't have a lot of noise and all that going if you're trying to investigate. Because if you're like me and you're having to listen to recorders, you know, when you're back home, you don't want to have to weed out all that excess noise to try to hear an EVP.
There you go. Andrew
Yeah.
says iced tea or coffee, Taco John's 6-pack, and a pound for him. I don't know what the pound is, but that's okay. You know, so taco in Atchison, Kansas, there wasn't a lot of places to eat, so Taco John's was right there. It was handy, so we would always get that, or we'd call up and order a pizza from Pizza Hut and listen to the guy when he comes to deliver it to complain about how the young kids wouldn't go and deliver it because it was a haunted location. So this old guy always got to deliver the pizza. And it always seemed like it was the same guy every time too.
Oh, wow.
So 6 tacos and 2 things of those potato things. Oh yeah, I remember the potato things. Oh, and he says Casey's for great frozen Mountain Dew is what Tom says.
Yeah, those are good. I've had those too.
So
yeah, we have a Waggles that carries them here. That's our big store. We have a Casey's too. They're remodeling it. It was a Pilot, so all the Pilot stores I think are turning into Casey's.
That would be something new, because down here we have Circle K's.
Yeah.
They were supposed to put in, or they put a thing up in front of the city council here to put in a Quick Trip. And I was like, oh, that'd be great. Of course, we don't go down to the highway, but it'd be nice to have a Quick Trip close by.
Right.
Nope. They said it was going to be too much traffic. And I'm like, well, what about Loves? You
have
got
Loves.
Loves, and you got these giant Circle K's, and you got, the Pilots and whatever. You got all these huge truck stops. What's the difference between, those and a Quick Trip? And the closest Quick Trip to us is like Birmingham.
Huh.
But I'm looking at it and going, at least it's not a Buc-ee's. I mean, talk about traffic. You've seen Buc-ee's there in Sevierville.
Yeah, Buc-ee's is crazy.
Well, I mean,
it's a fancy bathroom. It's about, to me, it's a run in, run out. I try not to buy anything. It's a big, shopping store.
Yes, it's Walmart on steroids.
Yeah.
We've walked around. We have one over in Foley, Alabama. And, and they just opened one in Springfield. And, people love that place.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I know for you guys out there in Sevierville, they have like 300 or 400 employees.
It's a big one. I went there. I've only been there once, but that was enough for me. I used to stop at the one in South Carolina. That's where my sister lives. And I took my daughter in there, and she's like, oh, my Lord, look at all these little beavers. And I said, yeah, they got them all the way from itty bitty to jumbo.
They have blow-up ones for Halloween and Christmas.
Yeah.
For your yard. They have swimsuits. And, yeah, Buc-ee's is one busy beaver. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Our grandchildren love it, though.
Yeah, my daughter likes those old-timey trucks, and they had one set up with all those little beavers in it, so I got her picture in front of it last year. I said, now you're famous in a Buc-ee's.
Yeah, it can't be all bad. People are having a good time. You see them laughing. I haven't seen anybody get all.
Been to the Bell Witch Cave?
Yeah, have you been to the Bell Witch Cave?
No, I've not been there.
I've heard about it. Is that on your list?
It's on my list, yeah.
I don't know any. I mean, we were supposed to go years ago.
How about Old South Pittsburgh?
Old South Pittsburgh.
I've been wanting to go there too. It's not far from here. It's probably about think 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I
I
don't
looked
think
up-
it's that far from here
No.
either.
Yeah, it's not really far away as far as I know.
Tom looked it up. It's 13 hours to Mansfield from here. It's only 2 hours longer than going to St. Louis. So did you hear that, Tom? Only 2 hours longer than driving to St. Louis. So, but we have been invited to go to Ashmore Estates in October. So we'll see how that goes. So
And
let's see.
where's that one at?
Ashmore, Illinois. It's
okay.
outside of Mattoon. It's what, 10 miles from Mattoon, something like that.
No,
Not even that. It's what, 2 hours from St. Louis in Illinois.
Oh,
So
middle of nowhere.
yeah, it is out in the middle of nowhere. So it's been on probably every major paranormal TV show. So they have an event there too. They have a free event there in September called Ash Bash. And the guy who owns it, he is such a good guy. Robin Terry, he is such a good guy. He has sacrificed for the paranormal, sacrificed for the locations and everything. And he owns 2 or 3 really good ones. So, and they're all they're all far from each other. And he lives in one of them, which is the Haunted R Theater. And don't ask me where it is because I don't know. I want to go, but it sounds really like an interesting place to go. So
that's cool.
So do you have a bucket list of places that you want to go?
Well, I'd actually like to go to as many as I can, as soon as I can. But we run a nonprofit group, so we don't charge, so we basically help people for gas money, that somebody might give me $50 for fuel, to help the next couple of places out here local. And we kind of try to stretch it as far as we can. So we've not really had a huge budget as far as that goes to do stuff like that. But one day in the future, hopefully we'll be able to.
How often are you called in for a residential?
Well, it could be 1 a week. It could be 3 a month. It just it's at random. Usually in the winter months, it slows down. But yeah, I keep my little live button going 24 hours. That way, if someone needs to leave a message, they can. Or if they want to call and leave a message, they can, either way.
What has been the most unusual call that you've received for help?
Probably where a parent has called and said their child is seeing things coming out of their closet at 4 a.m. That was probably the oddest one, because she said that her daughter swears there was a cow in it. And I was like, how did a cow get in her closet? And she's like, there's not a cow in there. And she thought it was a stuffed cow because she remembered a family member had gave her one. And she said she dug through that closet for 3 hours and never could find it. And then the next morning, this cow that she was trying to find was sitting in the middle of the daughter's bed. And the daughter said she didn't put it there. So that must have been the one she was seeing. I mean, I just thought that was kind of odd, because she didn't specify that it was a live cow. She just said there is a cow that is moving around in my closet.
Mm-hmm.
So, that to me, that's odd, for a child to come out and just tell their mom and scare her half to death to where she calls me. Yeah.
I've had a similar call, but not about a cow. And Andrew, yes, I do know about Boogeyman Hour, and I know that Cassie will give me up in a heartbeat for David Glidden. So I know that. So she's just one of his groupies. So I'm glad she showed up here for an hour first. So, yeah, we had one where we got a girl called us. Well, her mother called us crying, and their microwave came on and it was unplugged. And it was a house in Atchison, Kansas. And for reference, we live 90 miles from there. We did not live in Atchison. We drove up there every week in the fall to help out with stuff. But she called and she said, "Here, this is what's happening." And the girl told me, the daughter that was having the issues, she said he was mad because my mom wasn't here and he was letting us know that we were being bad. And so the mother called. She had me on the phone for an hour and a half. And at the time, my husband and I were part of Atchison Paranormal. We were helping them out, get their team started. And so we drove all the way up there and met with the family. And by the time we left, everything was good. And the mother had found out at that point that her daughter saw spirits. She didn't know until that moment in time. And the young lady to this day still sees spirits and still talks to me about every time she sees one. And she still asks questions. And it's been 8 years. 8 years of her calling me to talk to me about it. And she was being teased at school and stuff for all this. And I was the first person to accept it. And from there on, she's made sure that if she tells anybody and they don't accept her, she just doesn't care now. So, which is good because she is an adult now.
Right.
But, it's hard.
I agree.
So, and Donald says, "I'm convinced kids and pets see things we can't." Yeah, I think so. I think it's the innocence.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on that?
I believe the same.
So
I always say if a child's telling you they're seeing something, you believe that child until they tell you they're not seeing it no more, because when it's over, they'll let you know. And pets, we've had like I had a dog when I moved over to my dad's house for a little while. When I took my dog there, it took me 2 days to get her adjusted to the move. And for like the first 2 nights at 3:00 on the dot, she would bark. And I told her I'd go in there. I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. It's a new house. It's a new house. And we even had like a fire alarm to go off once for no reason around that same time. So, I mean, you just never know when it's going to happen.
Okay, you've mentioned your daughter. Is your daughter a paranormal investigator as well?
She helps out with like kid cases. Like if I've got a case that I've got to go on and there's a child there and they don't want to be interviewed or they don't want to answer questions about it, she'll go in there and like maybe play games with them or something to entertain while I'm talking to the parents, just so that she's not spooked. Just to kind of let them know that, hey, I'm a child too. I'm young and it's okay. This is not anything to be scared about.
Yeah. So when you say young, you mean older than 16, but less than 20.
Right. She's 17. Mm-hmm. She's been helping me. She's been helping me for about 3 years.
Don Ballou would tell you he saw our daughter when she was 10 hanging out with us at the Sally house. So I don't want people to think that we're talking about, small children.
No.
We're talking about children that are old enough to say, hey, I want to do this, or nope, I want to stay home. Yeah. My daughter, Leah, now, she's 24. So she's allowed to say, I want to stay home now. But back then, she used to like to go with us. Now she's not, doesn't care for it. But yeah, sometimes once they get to be adults, they don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
And some of them do. Some of them really find out when they're a little bit older that they spent a lot of time not wanting to be part of the paranormal to be part of the paranormal. So,
Yep.
it's
You
always
just never
interesting.
know. Yeah,
So-
my daughter that's home, she likes going with me whenever I have something big, but she don't like being sent like to the cellar or nothing. She wants to stay like on the main floor. And I'm the one that takes off. I'm like, well, I'll be either in the attic or the cellar. You know how to find me.
Yep. So I still got a whole buttload of questions that I want to ask. So it's got about 20 minutes left of the show. Do you still want to go these last 20 minutes?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Is there anybody else in your family that investigates with you?
My fiance, he does, and then I've got two friends that help me out as well. I either take it. They're both ladies, and I'll either take one or the other, whichever one says, "Hey, I'll go." You know, that's free, and we'll all just bunch up and go on our little adventure.
Is there a location that you don't ever want to go back to?
Well, there's been a couple of locations I've been to, like a repeat. Like I went one time, and then like 6 months later, like they call back in and say they had something else going on. But about the only one that I don't ever want to go back to is a trailer park where the owner agreed and then disagreed when a neighbor didn't want it, didn't want us there. So I probably wouldn't go back to that one. Because they didn't want us to film. And what it was I had my 4-camera system going outside, but I had the cameras running inside because it was a small trailer.
Right.
And they thought they were being recorded too, but in reality, we were filming indoors. It's just, when you get in those situations, I always tell people to make sure they have their owner's permission before we do it if they're not owners of the property.
Mm-hmm.
Because like around here we have a lot of government housing, and they don't allow that at all. You just can't show up because, some people are on a list that they're not supposed to be in housing. So they're really particular about who does what. So I have to let everybody know, if you live there, we can't help you. I'm sorry,
Well, you can help them, but you just can't film it, right? Or you just don't help them.
You can't go in. You cannot go in one and investigate at all. They won't let you because it's government owned.
I used to live in government subsidized housing, but they didn't claim to have control of.
Well, these are like apartments. They're like duplexes, I guess, because there's just two sides to them.
Yeah, ours were 6. So, like I said, I don't understand how anybody can tell you that. I mean, I could see if you're living on a base right. Housing, that may be different. But what's funny is, from what I understand, they do investigations here at the Pensacola Naval Air Station. Okay. So it doesn't make sense,
Right.
Well, I guess different rules for different places.
Right.
We'll just go with that.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, they can, they have a no trespassing list, and they have to go through, there's steps you've got to go to if you want to even like spend the night there in one now, if you're not like a renter.
Okay.
I had a friend tell me that before her mom could spend 3 nights, she was having surgery, that she had to sign some documents and get it notarized, and they did a background check. So she had to pay $30 just to spend 3 nights with her daughter for the first time. And then after that, they said she could come do it like every few months. She could spend up to 3 days. But that's because they ran a background check on her and knew her. I thought that was crazy.
It is. That's control, and apparently there's a reason for it. It's just, I guess I'm sheltered. We'll just go with that. Yes, I lived in government subsidized housing, but I'm sheltered because I don't know. I know that there's some apartment places that you go to that, you can have somebody come and stay the night. They can stay, 2 or 3 days, and then they're going, okay, you're now living here. It's assumed you're living here. Now you got to be put on the lease.
Right.
I know but grateful they didn't do that to me with our kid. I was over there almost every night for a year, helping with the baby. So baby lives with us right now. So always have them sign a waiver beforehand. Yes, we do.
Right.
And Tom, are you talking about where I saw a spirit following you around? Is that the one at the Egyptian Theater there in DeKalb? So that makes hearing theaters. Have you ever investigated a theater?
No, I have not.
Because we're always told by people that they're really, really haunted, and because of the drama and all the stuff that goes on there. I was just wondering if you'd had any experiences with that. Have you investigated many jails or prisons or anything like that besides wanting to go to Brushy Mountain?
No, I've not investigated any jails. The one here, they're actually building a bigger one. I'm not sure if they're going to allow tours at the one that they're going to move them all from, but it's not far from here. So there's a possibility that I might get to do one close by. It's just, we don't really have any in this area that are, not filled with people, as far as like being shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, just about every building here is being used for something, or they're building apartments in it now.
So we talked about a lot of different places tonight. What actually, Andrew Cox, I've heard something about Hales Dam Bar. And have you been there at all?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to tell you offline what I've heard about the place. I had a guest on a couple weeks ago that was telling me about Hales Dam Bar from I think it was the haunted house, the ghost hunting housewives had told me something about that place. So I don't know. It's strange, all the stories that you hear going around, and I don't know. Some of the stories I hear are amazing. Okay, some stories are amazing, and others are lackluster.
Yeah, but the only way you're going to know is to go. That's
right.
Yeah.
Is there some place that you thought was lackluster that was off the charts, and vice versa?
Well, that's why I wanted to go to that Old South Pittsburgh, because I've seen a couple episodes like Ghost Adventures went, and then the Ghost Brothers done it, and I wanted to go for myself to see what I got, because they both seem like they're over dramatized, just to see if some of it is really as haunted as what they say. Because, I've sat in the dark in rooms, and the way, you see them sit, they might sit there a few minutes and they get up screaming and run down the hall.
Yeah, but they're also there for 3 or 4 days, and all we see is 42 minutes.
Right.
But a friend of mine, the Kat Hobson, the voice of Fate magazine radio, I used to have a show on her network, and she's gone to Old South Pittsburgh many times, and she went there under the previous owner and the current owner, and she said that she's had activity every time she's went. The current owner really cleaned it up. There used to be fungus and stuff in there that was dangerous for people to be breathing in, and stuff. But she says that some things are over dramatized, but the place is haunted off the charts. So I trust her. I'm skeptical because I do see stuff. And I'm also a data person. So it makes it hard to be, I see spirits, but I'm fact-based. So I'm not wishy-washy, but I have to go from one spectrum to the other all the time, and I'm always questioning what I see.
Right.
So sometimes I don't believe what I see. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So just because I see it, it doesn't make me believe it anymore. It makes me question what I'm seeing and go, why am I seeing it? Why am I hearing this? Why is this touching me? Did I do something? I'll spend hours, and anybody who knows me knows it's true. I'll spend hours telling myself it's, I didn't see anything, or it's that it makes sense that it happened, So,
Right.
So now going the other way, is there a place that you've been that was overhyped?
That was overhyped.
Yeah. They said it was really, really haunted, and then it wasn't. For you.
Well, like, for example, we have a place called Pridemore Manor. It's a haunted attraction that people go to year long. Like they have a Valentine's weekend that they open it up. It's for people who want to be scared, like where they'll dress up around Halloween and stuff. I used to go down there when it used to be a restaurant before they turned it into this haunted attraction. And I actually went back around prom to that same place to eat at. And nothing ever happened to anyone there like what they do. They've got a big sign up that says that it's definitely haunted. They also told me they've had a paranormal team to investigate, and they verified that it was haunted. And I said, well, I went through all 3 attractions even, and I didn't feel a thing, as far, I was laughing through part of it. I had went with a bunch of college friends. And I said, really just watching people get spooked was the best part, Yeah. That was really it. But I told them, I said, I didn't feel a thing, and I said, I'd love to come back and just, try a few things to see if I get something to go off while this place is closed. And I'm like, no, we've already had a team in here. They were, I pretty much knew that they hadn't had nobody there. Because I contacted the team that they said did go there, and they're like, we've never investigated there. I was like, you've never been there? And they're like, no. And I said, well, they're saying you all have.
Well, I'll tell you, it's always interesting. One of the places that we went that they said was really haunted was the we went to Bobby Mackey's, and then that night we went to a place over in Cincinnati, so the Sedamsville Rectory closed down. It was taken back over by the church after this couple went and redid all of it. It was beautiful. It was like bed and breakfast beautiful. Okay. So, really, really crappy neighborhood, really nice building. And we were there 2 hours, and we had a family emergency and had to leave, drove and started driving back home. And this place is on the other side of Louisville, on the east side. So, and we were heading back to Kansas City. So I was very disappointed that I didn't feel nothing. I didn't see anything. I didn't see any reason why it should be haunted. Read lots of lies about the place. That they used to do dog fighting in the basement. It's like, no, they didn't. Things like that. But it's no longer a paranormal location. It's now a rectory for the priests to live in that deal with the church, as it used to be before it was made into a paranormal location.
Oh, wow.
But I was also kind of disappointed with Bobby Mackey's in parts of it, where they said that they had activity during the shows. We had no activity. And then they downplayed the areas where we had activity. And according to the team that was there that did did the tours and all that, they the places where we were having stuff happen was the places that all the shows just kind of ignored.
Hmm.
And it's like, that's weird. And how they ignored some of the history, how they pick a tangent to go on and let it go. You know, so that's the sad part. I love watching the shows to get ideas of places to go.
Right.
But whatever story they're telling, I'm not listening to because I do my own research. And so that's me being pain in the butt, but that's me. So, hey, Jeremy. So, where can everybody find you and your
Where can they
team?
find me? We are on Facebook. That's how I started out posting just a little ad on there, and then I went from there to a business card and just kind of grew the page from there. It's under the search, and all you'll do is search the name Dream Rather Than Worry. If you can't find me there, you can always type in my name. And I'm in Morristown, Tennessee, just like Morris the cat. That's the easiest way to remember this town. And if you've got any questions or anything else that she didn't cover, or if you want to throw me some places that you'll help get me into if I'm ever there or whatever, feel free. And I'll try to do my best to get there.
And if you guys have any questions after the show, please feel free to put them in this chat. And Tiffany was copied on it, so she will see the messages as they come through, same as I will, and we'll get you an answer. So let's see, what do we got going on with the paranormal? We have tomorrow night, we have Paranormal Nation Radio, Not So Normal, and me and Ron and Carl. Our guest will be Bart Taller from PRI, and I hear that they're doing some interesting things at Paranormal Research Institute. So we're going to be finding out what's going on with that team. It's been a while since we've had Bart on. And then next Monday, it's going to be a great show. I'm going to have on James McDaniel. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he was the media guy that was on Paranormal Live when they were doing all those investigations live for 2 hours on TV and with Tennessee Wraith Chasers. But he's also the media guy for OP Live. So if you watch OP Live on Reels Network or Paramount TV, check this out. You'll find out some of the inside scoops on all the police comings and goings on OP Live. And those of you who know me know I used to love Live PD. I may wear my Live PD shirt from Susan and Mike that says, "These aren't my pants." Okay. So check that out. If you really like OP Live, this is going to be your chance to ask those questions to the guy who's behind the scenes, making sure everything goes on there. But he also knows what else is going on at Reels Network as well. So, if you have other shows that you like, check it out and see what's going on. So that's what we've got going on here. So you guys check that out. Let me know if you have any ideas for guests, and I will see what I can do. And I hope that you, Tiffany, had a really good time on the show tonight. And I hope it turned out to be what you. I just like to visit with people, and this way I just visit with people publicly and hopefully make it fun.
Right.
And
thank you.
If you I think everybody should have a great night. And I know everybody's going to talk about it. You got the Chiefs game coming up. If all of you guys in Kansas City, I know what you're hoping for. Hope you get what you're asking for. So, and then, of course, we've got just over 2 weeks until then. And I'm going to be talking to you guys, telling you guys about the investigation that I'm doing with Rob Booth. We're going to the Hamilton County Jail in Jasper, Florida on the 10th of this month of February. So that'll be fun. And we may go live if he's okay with that. And if you guys don't remember Rob Booth, Santa Claus, the guy that plays Santa Claus here in Pensacola, has invited us to go do an investigation with them. So join us here every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central for the Paranormal Pride. And And every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Central, Paranormal Nation Radio, Not So Normal, right here on the Bill of Rights Network. And make sure you check out the Bill of Rights Network for all your other interesting shows. We've got shows almost every day of the week, so check them out. And if you want to, go search Born TV on Rumble, and you can also catch the replays there. So you guys have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central.
Okay.
Good night.
Night.